All right, folks, hope you did well. I'm going to go ahead and do these problems from your quiz. So we've seen this problem before, and so the first thing that you should be doing is rewriting the formula. The reason why you rewrite the formula is just in case you make an error you don't want to have written over the original problem. And so we identified that we needed to know what H and W are. So we go through the problem, we see that H represented the person's height, W represented the person's weight. So when I look for the height, 74 inches tall, so H is 74, and the weight is 240. What's the approximate body surface area? So I'm looking for B, which we don't know, so what we're going to figure out. So from there, the next step is to plug in the useful information. So 74 times 240, and divide that by 3131. And when you do that math, first step is to multiply those two numbers. 74 times 240 gives you 17,760. Divide that by 3131, which is going to result in the square root of 5.67. When you take the square root by hitting the square root button, you get 2.38. So your answer would then be B. Number 2, again, in order to solve this problem, we need A and X. So A is equal to acceleration. A represents acceleration, and X is the distance traveled. So when I look for the acceleration, I see acceleration is 5 meters per second squared, and the distance is 20 meters. So A is going to be 5, and X is going to be 20. When I write up my problem, I have the square root of 2ax, and again, writing it out for accuracy's sake. So now, when I do step 2, which is to plug in, I'll have 2 times 5 times x, I'm sorry, not x, but 20, because we know that when two numbers are next to each other, they should be multiplied, or two variables are next to each other, they should be multiplied. Let's clean up math. 2 times 5 times 20 is going to be 200, and the square root of 200 is 14.14, and so our answer is C, 14. Number 3, same idea. We need to know what R and H are. So R equals H equals, well, what is R? I look around and we see R represents the radius, H represents the height. So I look for my radius. I see a radius of 7 inches, so that means that R is 7, and H, height, is 9, so H is 9. My job now is simply to plug it in. So A is 3.14. R, again, write the equation out so that you don't have any mishaps. And so now when I plug in, it'll be 3.14. R is 7. Square root of 7 squared plus 9 squared. Bring it down. We can do this math out here, but we normally do the parentheses first, so let's leave this alone for now. Square root of 7 squared is 49 plus 9 squared, which is 81. So now we'll keep this again. Times 7. Square root of 49 plus 81 is going to be 130. So our next task is to go ahead and take the radical. So 3.14 times 7, radical 130 is going to be 11.14. And we can now do all this math at one time. And so when you go straight across, 3.14 times 7 is 21.98. Times 11.14 gives you 250.61. So your answer would then be C. Number 4, which again should have been the easiest one, although they tell you about going 10 miles north and 10 miles east, that doesn't matter because they wanted to know what the straight path was to go from here to here, which they said was radical 200. So really, all they wanted to know was what is the square root of 200. So press 200, hit the square root button, and you get 14.14. Answer is D. Finally, for number 5, we have a 25-foot ladder. They go up by 25 feet. They said they slide down, and that distance from the base to the edge is 15. So about how far apart are Charlotte and Chris? Technically, they're asking you for this distance here, which you'll know going forward that this is a right triangle that's formed when you go straight up and then go down at an angle. That's going to be a right angle. So they're really asking you for, in a right triangle, if you have A and B, we said that across from the right angle must be C. So really all they're asking you for is what is C. The formula we said we can use is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And it doesn't really matter which one you call A or which one you call B, but C must be right here. It must be the hypotenuse and it must be by itself. So if we're doing the math, we're going to plug in 25 squared plus 15 squared equals C squared. And 25 squared, 25 times 25 is 625. 15 times 15 is 225, which should still be equal to C squared. I'm going to go ahead and put my division line so I don't cross over unnecessarily. So 625 plus 225 is now going to give you 850, which should still be equal to C squared. And so in order to get rid of the square, I have to do the opposite, to square root. So when I take the square root of 850, just put 850, press square root button, you get 29.15. And since the opposite operation on the same thing frees it up, or gets rid of the square, I'm going to end up with just C. So if I get 29.15, this is about how far. The only answer that actually makes sense is D. Even though rounding would result in this being 29, the closest number is 30. Hope you did well, and let's keep it moving.